And our Peter Choi has been in Moscow all day tracking down answers to the 4 U of I murders.
This incident has shaken our community, has continued to shake our community.
Early last Sunday, 4 students from University of Idaho were stabbed to death in off-campus housing.
Local businesses were canvassed in an effort to see if any fixed blade type knives may have recently been purchased. And currently, there are no suspects in custody, and we have not located a weapon.
Moscow police say the first 911 call came from the roommate's phone, but they still won't say who placed that call. The police say they don't believe the 911 caller is the killer. Detectives say Kaylee and Madison called the man multiple times before the murder. However, they don't believe the man they called early Sunday is a suspect. The police didn't say how the killing happened while 2 other roommates were sleeping at their apartment. And Moscow police also said there were other friends at the home that morning, but didn't specify when.
We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime. The 2 surviving roommates, a male seen at the Grubtruck food vendor downtown, specifically wearing a white hoodie.
Captain Lenya also talks about the online rumors.
Stop with any kind of rumors and just seek official information that comes out of the Moscow Police Department. Anything that we have that we can share from a law enforcement perspective, we will be sharing just as soon as we can.
The police say they searched 3 dumpsters on the King Road. They say they did not find any noteworthy evidence. The police says they have received more than 600 tips and conducted 90 interviews.
We start with breaking news out of Moscow, Idaho. Within the last hour, police specifically addressed questions about the surviving roommates and a man seen in a video with 2 of the 4 murdered U of I students. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kirsten O'Connor.
And I'm Aaron Luna. Jordan Smith has been covering this investigation from the start. He's live in Moscow tonight at the home where the bodies were found. Jordan.
Well, Aaron, lots of new information tonight released by Idaho State Police just an hour ago. It was previously reported that Ethan Chapin was a resident of this home here behind me, but tonight we're learning he was just visiting this home late that Saturday night. Now, other information that we're learning here tonight, detectives don't believe the other 2 surviving roommates or the male in this Grubtruck surveillance video are involved in this crime. Also, new information, police have addressed the rumors of these victims being bound and gagged, saying that's not accurate. The coroner stated that each victim was likely killed in their sleep. Some had defense wounds, but each was stabbed multiple times, and there is no evidence of sexual assault. Detectives have also seized the contents of 3 dumpsters here on King Street in hopes of locating possible evidence. The knife used to murder these students still has yet to be found, and at this time, the detectives have received over 500 tips. And here's a look at the timeline released by law enforcement today. It shows the whereabouts for all 4 victims for at least part of the evening. We'll begin with Maddie and Kaylee. The 2 of them were seen at the Corner Club Saturday evening, a bar on the northern part of town. They stayed there from roughly 10 p.m. until 1:30 a.m. before arriving at a food truck just a few blocks down. Law enforcement estimates they spent roughly 10 minutes there before finally departing to their residence on Queen Street. And Ethan and Zaina, they started their evening at the Sigma Chi fraternity, attending a party from 8 to 9 p.m. Police are still asking about their timeline. Their whereabouts remain unknown from 9 p.m. until about 1:45 a.m. when they returned to this residence here on Queen Street. And as of tonight, over 130 members of law enforcement are actively working this case, including 46 from the FBI. But tonight, still no updates on any suspects the police are looking for, as everybody from campus has just about taken off for Thanksgiving break. We'll be tracking the very latest updates on this story as we get them, guys. For now, reporting in Moscow, I'm Jordan Smith. I'll send it back to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. Tonight, 5 days after the attack on 4 college students near the University of Idaho campus, just into our newsroom here shortly, we are learning new details from the Latah County Coroner's Office. However, we still have many remaining questions. Now, tonight we have team coverage of this breaking news. Amanda Rowley live at the house on King Road where those bodies were found with new details on this murder investigation. Janelle Finch is also in in Moscow tonight with how the community is reacting. First, though, we turn to Mark Hanrahan, who is joining us here in the KREM 2 studio with what we've learned from the coroner's office this afternoon. Mark?
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Whitney. In the last hour, we received the cause and manner of death for all 4 murder victims. So take a look at this new information right here. The cause of death for Ethan, Kaylee, Xana, Madison, it's all listed as murder by stabbing. All were pronounced dead at noon on Sunday. Moscow police did say yesterday that all victims had been stabbed. The autopsy report confirms this, and it's now a murder investigation. What we still don't know, based on this report, is what time the victims were found. We don't know where in the home they were stabbed, where they were in the house, or if any of them fought back. We don't know who called 911. We don't know if one victim seemed to be more of a target than the others. These are all questions we have continued to ask Moscow police. Police officers have said they are keeping many of the details private right now to make sure they don't compromise their investigation. But we will continue to ask questions and bring you the very latest information just as soon as we get that. Whitney?
All right, Mark, thank you very much. Now, the bodies of 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves, and 20-year-old Ethan Chapin were all found in a house just steps away from the University of Idaho campus. That was around noon on Sunday. Police have been keeping a lot of that information close, as we said, regarding this investigation. At a press conference just yesterday, the Moscow police chief laid out what they are willing to share with the public. Well, police confirmed all 4 students killed by a knife. However, they have not recovered that weapon. They also confirmed the victims were the only ones in the house when the bodies were found. 2 other roommates, though, were home at the time. Police say they were not hurt. They also believe there was no forced entry into the home. They gave more details about the scene just yesterday.
My name is Cecilia. I'm a mom of 2 girls, a psychologist, and I choose to transform my PBC treatment journey with iCurvo.
They gave more details about the scene just yesterday.
We're not 100% sure if the door was unlocked, but there was no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there.
Moscow police now appealing to the public for additional information. They have set up a tip line for people to call if they have any information that may be relevant to this investigation. That number, as you can see right there on your screen, it is 208-883-7180. The Idaho State Police also say they have seen an increase in tips since their press conference just yesterday afternoon, asking for more information. We are not getting a ton of information from the new autopsy report that was just released here in the last hour. However, there has been a lot of activity at the crime scene itself today. For more on that, we are turning straight to our Amanda Rowley live in Moscow. And Amanda, what have you seen there today?
Well, Whitney, at this hour, this crime scene still remains active, and it's Idaho State Police forensics team that are on site here. I've seen several people coming and going inside and out of the house, carrying boxes, wearing gloves. At one point, I believe I even saw a couple flashes believed to be from a camera coming from the windows inside the house. In fact, this afternoon, I did notice the back sliding door to the house was opened at one point today. We could see red markings stuck to the frame of the door. Now, Idaho State Police spokesperson Aaron Snell told me this afternoon it was believed that the potential suspect came through the sliding glass door. But again, there appeared to be no signs of forced entry. Now, he explained to me just a few hours ago what ISP's forensic team is working on at the scene right now.
They're just kind of reassessing the house. They're going through it. They're looking for any potential additional evidence. They're collecting it. They'll take additional photos. I mean, they're kind of going over it. It's a large crime scene, and not that anything in particular was missed. However, it's always good to have another set of eyes go over things, especially of a crime of this magnitude.
Now, we also confirmed today the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit is also assisting with the case. They do a variety of things, including crime analysis, create profiles of unknown offenders, offer investigative suggestions, and help with interview strategies. Now, ISP is also expecting an FBI command vehicle to arrive in Moscow to provide more workspace and additional resources for the investigation. Now, at this time, ISP says the roommates who were at the home during the attack but were not injured are in fact cooperating with investigators. And right now, they are not considered suspects or persons of interest, but ISP says they have not ruled anyone out. Tonight, Snell is insisting that no one has been cleared from this investigation. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
All right. Thank you very much, Amanda. Students and families there in that area still having a lot of questions about these murders. Some have criticized Moscow police for not sharing more information sooner. We spoke with the former Pullman police chief, Gary Jenkins, who is now serving as the interim chief at WSU. He told KREM 2 today, this early in the investigation, law enforcement always has to be careful about what details are made public.
Just trying to make sure that when detectives go out and interview people, it's based on what they know, not what they've heard on the news. And so it's really a balancing act for them, trying to release enough information so that if there is a potential threat, that the public can take precautions for that, but also at the same time not jeopardize a 4 homicide investigation.
Moscow police have walked back on claims that the community is safe after Sunday's stabbings. At yesterday's press conference, Chief James Fry in Moscow said they could not guarantee that there is no threat to the public. The department and other agencies have since stepped up patrols around the community. Our Janelle Finch is now live in Moscow with more on that. Janelle?
The people I spoke to today here in Moscow say they commend the Moscow police for bringing in added resources, the Idaho State Police and FBI, to figure out who could have committed these crimes against these students. Today on Facebook, the Moscow School District informed parents that Idaho State Patrol cars would be monitoring the area around its 7 schools as they are in town to support local police in finding who's responsible for 4 murders earlier this week. One Moscow School District mom says she's thankful Moscow PD are calling on the necessary agencies to help figure out what exactly happened on Sunday and protect the community.
Being around town today, this morning, I noticed quite a few more law enforcement just out and about. I'm really grateful for them.
In a press conference yesterday, we learned from the Moscow Police Chief, James Fry, that the department has called on 25+ investigators, the Idaho State Police and FBI, to assist in solving this case. As we've mentioned, at this time, no suspect is in custody. The Moscow Police Department maintains that this was a targeted attack, and for that reason, the people I spoke to here in Moscow today say they don't personally feel threatened in the community. But still, the University of Idaho is telling people here to remain vigilant and share any and all information you can with Moscow Police. Live in Moscow, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
All right, Janelle, thank you very much. And we are continuing to track this news coming out of Moscow tonight. For all of our reporting so far on these deaths, you can go to krem.com for our complete coverage.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight for KREM 2 News at 6. I'm Cody Proctor. Mark and Whitney are on special assignment tonight. We'll hear from them in a few minutes. But first, let's get right to some breaking news on the murder of 4 University of Idaho students. Moscow police now say the murders happened while the victims were most likely asleep. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk is joining us now live in the studio tonight. And Kyle, what can you tell us at this hour?
Well, Cody, Moscow police just put out new information. They still don't have a suspect, but they have started to rule some people out. Tonight, authorities are also dispelling some rumors being shared online.
New details are emerging in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Tonight, the Latah County coroner says the 4 students were likely asleep. Some had defensive wounds and each victim was stabbed multiple times. Authorities found no sign of sexual assault. Moscow police say at this point in the investigation, they do not believe the 2 surviving roommates or the man seen standing near a local food truck were involved in the murders. Police also addressed rumors swirling online claiming the victims were gagged and tied, saying those are not accurate, and the identity of the 911 caller has not been released. Detectives say they've received nearly 500 tips which are being processed, investigated, and cleared. 38 people who may have information about the murders have been interviewed. The whereabouts of the killer and the knife used are still unknown. Detectives seized the contents of 3 dumpsters on King Road to look for evidence. Police have also gone to local businesses to see if anyone recently purchased a fixed-blade knife. Anyone who saw something suspicious, has video surveillance, or can provide relevant information about the murders is asked to call the Moscow Police Department.
And a lot of resources have been put on this case. 128 members of law enforcement, including 46 FBI investigators, all on the ground in Moscow trying to figure out who did this and why. Cody.
Kyle, thank you so much. And tonight we're getting more perspective on this high-profile case from a man who spent decades working alongside the FBI. Chris Bertram's an associate professor of criminal justice and says the fact a knife was used is unique given the fact mass killings usually involve a gun. He says detectives will have to examine where the victims were stabbed and whether the attack was an overkill. On top of looking into the victims and what was going on in their lives leading up to the murder, Bertram says police are likely focusing on the people they knew.
Somebody that saw them, somebody that went to school with them, somebody that associated with them in the community or at work or in some type of endeavor. And they became fixated on them, and we have to look at that. Or, as in some cases we look with school shootings, was this based on peer rejection or social rejection?
Bertram says police may also be asking around to see if anyone close to the victims had a fascination with knives. Now, in other new developments tonight, the Idaho State Police released a map roughly outlining where the students were late Saturday night going into early Sunday morning. At this hour, they're hoping it'll help the public remember any information that will prove helpful in this investigation. Crime 2's Amanda Rowley has been in Moscow tracking this story all week long, as she's joining us from the crime scene tonight with that newly released timeline and map.
Investigators are still trying to piece together where the 4 University of Idaho students went the night before they were found in their Moscow home stabbed to death. Investigators are hoping the map released today will provide additional tips from the community.
The map details the night of Saturday, November 12th into the early hours of Sunday, November 13th. It highlights locations and approximate times when Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan were in downtown Moscow, while Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house. Investigators believe Madison and Kaylee were at the Corner Club on Saturday from 8 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Sunday. Then they were at the Grubtruck on Main Street at 1:40 a.m. 5 minutes later, the map says they returned to their home on King Road. I drove that route this afternoon, starting at 4th and Main and ending at the King Road home. With some light traffic on the road, I arrived at the house in about 3 minutes. This suggests it's reasonable to believe Madison and Kaylee traveled by car from the food truck, but that detail has not been confirmed by police. Investigators also say Ethan and Xana were at a party at Sigma Chi from 8 to 9 p.m., then returned to the home on King Road at 1:45 a.m. The fraternity is a short 3-minute walk from the house, but still, there is a 5-hour gap on their location between the party and arriving at home. Investigators hope someone might remember being at or near the locations they've identified around the same time and potentially saw something suspicious or relevant to the investigation. Police are asking those people to call the tip line or email with that information.
This is all good information, but it brings up even more questions, such as, did investigators use the students' cell phones to identify the locations and times on this map? Did Madison and Kylie walk or drive or get a ride back to the home? And did Xana and Ethan spend only 1 hour at the Sigma Chi fraternity? I have several calls into Idaho State Police and other local authorities working this investigation. I have not heard back, but we will continue to press for answers as this story develops. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Rowley, Creme 2 News.
Amanda, thank you so much. And just into our newsroom, Moscow police said Maddie and Kaylee took an Uber home from the food truck. We don't know if police have spoken with the driver. Newsroom, Moscow police said Maddie and Kaylee took an Uber home from the food truck. We don't know if police have spoken with the driver. In the meantime, as we continue to look ahead, the Coeur d'Alene Texas Roadhouse is holding a fundraiser in honor of the 4 victims, with some of the proceeds going to their families. Xana Kernodle was a server at the restaurant before moving to Moscow. In honor of her, Texas Roadhouse is donating 10% of sales to the families of the victims. The event takes place Monday, November 21st from 3 to 9 p.m. New today, there's now an email for any information and to help with this case. They set up a tip line for people to call if they have any information about the investigation. That phone number and the email both on your screen right now. The Idaho State Police says they've seen an increase in tips since this week's press conference. And at this hour, we're continuing to track the news coming out of Moscow tonight. So be sure to stay with us here on KREM 2 News for the latest updates and for all of our reporting on these deaths. Go to KREM.com.